Hello, I'm Michael Bitar, and this is Cracking the Code. Today, really excited to have Marc Howarth with us. Marc, welcome.
Welcome, Mike. Thank you.
Good to see you, bud.
Oh, man. Great to be here. Always good for you to see me.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes, it is. So, Marc is the CEO of Emerging Brands Management Group. So, Marc has had an amazing CPG career. I'm going to let him share his background here in 1 second. And we did get to know each other through an interview process with an amazing consumer packaged goods brand. Marc's career has really exploded since then in some amazing ways, including owning his own business today. So the topic that we're going to cover ultimately is, with emerging brands, how can they be successful? What's that journey that they go through? Mm-hmm. And what are some of the pitfalls and some of the successes that you've seen throughout your career?
It's great. It's been a whirlwind. 40 years in industry, CPG, started my career, I guess you would say Anheuser-Busch. Back in the day when Anheuser-Busch was Anheuser-Busch, They weren't part of ABI. I wanted more. I wanted a challenge. I really wanted that entrepreneurship to get out and really show what I'm capable of doing. I had several companies recruit me, and then you showed up one day, one moment, and was talking to me about this company called Red Bull North America. And I didn't have really indication what that was.
But it was a very intentional move for you.
I think at Red Bull, what really, for me, that was attractive was the entrepreneurship. At that time, Red Bull was clearly still an entrepreneur, and you had a say and a voice within the company.
Yeah.
And you were able to really impact the business from day one. And they gave you the tools, and also you worked within the system to allow you to create those tools along the way. We worked with some great people back in the day, as you well know. You did a lot of recruiting for Red Bull back then. Brought a lot of good people to the organization and so forth. So it allowed me to learn the beverage industry.
Walk us through what you did after Red Bull, because that really led you to what you're doing today.
Well, Red Bull was a great experience for me. Let me just pause that for a minute. Great experience, did a lot of great things there. Was recruited right after, while I was there, worked for a company called Bai Brands. So building that brand in the course of 3 years, exiting in 2017 for $1.7 billion was a great experience for me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, accelerating that brand, and that's a fast acceleration.
It is a fast acceleration. You, Ben, and the whole team at Bai did amazing things. You had that experience underneath your belt. What did you do after that?
Well, we exited, just like any other exit, you just, decide, okay, what is the next step and phase of your career in life? I had the luxury, having some equity. It was nice.
Sure.
Took a step back and kind of reevaluate my choices and decisions. I think that entrepreneur in me, that spirit, was like, look, you're not getting any younger. You need to take that necessary step forward. And we developed and created and launched Emerging Brands. Pre-pandemic, employee one, that was it. It was only me.
Yeah.
And we launched. Our first partner that we launched in our portfolio, you see it today, is Alani Nu.
Alani Nu, who's doing very well. You make the decision that you're going to launch and start your own company.
I did.
A lot of people have that dream and that interest. Very few attempt to make that happen. Those that do attempt to make it happen, a very small percentage are successful.
Correct.
You have been successful.
I have.
And you're doing it with Emerging Brands,
I am.
Hence the name, which we'll get to here in a second. So not only have you launched your own business, and you've done it successfully, but you are helping other organizations figure out how to do that for themselves as well within the consumer goods arena.
Absolutely.
Alcoholic, non-alcoholic beverages, and food, snacks, bars as well.
We're just now getting into that.
And you're even getting in, are you into apparel as well?
We're looking at apparel. We're looking at just a couple different things. We have to diversify ourselves. We just don't want to be just in a box. So we got to keep options open. We really got to understand where the trends are leading us that way, right? And look at the industry in today's environment. Look, the pandemic has put everybody on edge. Coming out of the pandemic, inflation, all that's caused ill will within the network when we talk about investors and things of that nature. So, launching Emerging Brands was a great experience for me. And I think, Mike, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's a bit scary.
Sure.
Right? It's particularly at my age to get out and launch your own company.
People are having these thoughts. So many people inside of corporate America are having these thoughts. Some have tried their entrepreneurial bug and done it unsuccessfully. Others have had success. But the topic of how do you do it? What is that flow, to exit, I guess, if you will, from, ideation, capital raise, execution, and exit. So I'd like to break those 4 things down with you, if you would. So if you could walk through that flow for us, and let's start with ideation. What have you seen that's successful on this whole topic of creative ideas to really have a foundational component of a business?
Well, that's a good question. And when you look at ideation as a whole, what is point of difference here? I mean, what are we talking about? But not only that, you got to look at the environment and really have the knowledge and really the ear of the retailer. Really have those conversations. There's about 10 retailers that interact with on a daily occurrence, and these are national retailers. And I want to see what we can bring to them. And it took some time to kind of bust through that clutter. So really for me, or really as a brand, is what value can I bring to them, and what are they looking for? And not only that, how do you, when you bring a brand to a retailer, you got to feel confident enough that that brand is going to be that brand. It's going to turn, and they're going to have enough horsepower that's going to be able to do that for you. And when I say horsepower, does it have enough sustainability over the course of the 5-year plan, right? So that's the key there. It's like when we look at whether it's non-alcohol or alcohol, what is the significant point of difference, and what is the proposition, and what is the price package plan that's going to allow you to get there? I think the most important piece is that we're seeing in the marketplace today is a lot of these emergence brands, or brands in general, it's difficult to really hire a national sales team out there today.
So I think what you just said is really interesting, and I want to slow down on it for a second. I think a general sense of when people think about ideation and they think about starting their own company, they're so excited because they have an idea that they think makes sense. And sometimes it does. Yeah. And other times it's a cool idea, but it's not something that the retailers are going to say, wait a minute, that's not what we need. So your advice and your plan and the way that you handle your business is you start with the retailers and understand where the gaps are in their current offerings.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was at Walmart office on Monday, and you made a good point. If you've never been to Walmart, you should go. But at the same time, there's hundreds of offices. Buyers meet constantly for 30 minutes. Fully before I bring anybody into any type of retailer or really partner with them for a long-term plan, is fully understand what is their exit, meaning that brand. I really need to understand what your expectations are. Okay, and what are you going to put behind that brand? And then are you willing to pivot? If the trends tell you to pivot, are you willing to pivot? And are you willing to listen? A lot of people like to go wide, and instead of going deep. I think the most important thing with brands today, they want to go wide, but they don't listen.
Okay.
And then they come cash strapped a little bit.
The ideation piece, I find it extremely interesting.
It really is.
Let's talk about now, you've got to have some support to be able to deliver on the idea, right? Yep. So talk a little bit about capital raise and what that process looks like.
I think, if we take a step back 10 years ago, I think that was, not saying it's simple. I think as we come out of the pandemic and we're looking at today, things are becoming a bit more difficult. And what investors, as an example, when you look at investors, when you start looking at capital raise, depending on which way you go, obviously everybody has a business plan, but is the business plan sustainable? But how are you going to support that business plan and have the right sales force and the marketing tools and arms that be able to push that brand along? And I think you have to have that knowledge or that availability and have that conversation to raise capital, right? A lot of people, again, you got to build that proof of concept out. When you want to raise capital over time, this is post, not pre. Okay. You got to have some really good proof of concept in a confined area or a defined area to really build that out. I'm going to talk about the success story in a minute about that. But at the same time, it's becoming a little bit more difficult today to raise capital, as you probably already know, that you're seeing as well. So there's a lot of brands that are coming out daily, and all brands feel like they have the next best thing. And I think that's the difference.
So when you are making decisions as to which brands, emerging brands, your company is going to get behind, what kind of capital support do they need to have for you to be comfortable?
I think like a small business loan kind of like starts help like from like the jump start of a brand within the network. But in terms of capital, they need to have at least a minimum of 2 years cash flow on hand.
2 years cash flow.
Oh my God, if not more.
Okay.
They have that ready available. And I think the other side of that is let's be careful who, when you build a team within the network, I think this is where we come in. I think where we play a big role within the brand is like a sales, distribution, a key account arm of that brand at a fractional cost. Not only are you getting, you're getting a team of 5 or 6 versus one person.
No.
And I think there's a significant benefit, which enables you to keep that cash tight and also deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a great transition to the third leg of this flow, which is the execution piece.
Right. It makes a lot of sense to take a hard look at whether it's a broker or a network or look at a company such as Emerging Brands as a whole. So what we bring to the table, or at least our organization, whether you hire a broker, you're still going to have somebody to manage that broker. And you're going to have multiple brokers that are going to have multiple brands. What we do is really simple. This model that we've developed and continue to stay true to is, first and foremost, we don't do any duplication within our portfolios. If I have one tequila, I only have one, right? So I only have one brand in it, that's all I support. If I'm gonna go see Walmart or Kroger, whoever that may be, that is the tequila that I'm talking about. That's it, there's nothing else.
How much, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is interesting to me. So how much due diligence do you do to make sure that you're comfortable that that point of difference exists?
Well, the most important piece is looking at the brand as a whole, the brand identity, what's the brand proposition, but also the people behind the brand.
Sure.
So when acquisition exit takes place, they're not just buying the brand, they're buying some of those people, or they're buying the people that supported that brand along the way. Yeah. And I think that's important, right? So not only do we look at that, we look at the data. We buy data, we purchase data, we understand what the landscape is, but we kind of go back to our roots. We go back to our retailers before we start working with a brand and really kind of understand what that looks like. And you got to keep your ear open. You really got to listen. The biggest problem, not only just with anybody, is just listen and hear what they have to say. And how do we bring value to them?
Sure.
And how do we can get them to that exit? If indeed it can happen. And I tell them up front, look, this is the way things are going to flow. Although we're going to pivot, we're going to go, we're going to make sure we build this out successfully and profitably along the way. And I think that's really important for people to know.
No, that makes complete sense. And you've seen successful exits, pre-emerging brands, and since you've had this organization and been running it. So congratulations, man. That is, most people don't see any successful exits in their entire career. You've seen multiple on both sides of the equation there. So when the topic of, an exit is on the table, what does that really mean?
Well, it really depends on what the exit is. There's certain aspects or variables within an exit. Bai was a clear example, although we were part of the Dr. Pepper network at that time, and when Dr. Pepper purchased the company, we realized that over the course of that particular exit plan, fully we knew exactly what we were getting ourselves into at that time over the course of the next 1 or 2 years. So I think you got to prepare yourself. Is like, as an owner, I've had multiple offers from my company, but at the same time, is like, as a private investor that comes in or an equity company comes in, depends on, do you still want to continue to work or work within that confines of that company? What does your role look like? But I think, I want to throw this back at you. Where do you see it out there in the marketplace? I guess that's the question, because here recently, Gallo's a great example with Waterbird.
Sure.
There's an exit there, and there's a lot of moving pieces that goes along with that. But at the same time, I think they're going to keep that brand intact and move that thing along.
No, and as you toss that back to me, thank you. It runs the gamut, and that's why I think it's interesting. One of the foundational components of what we do and what you and I did back in 2007 was, Mark, what do you and Carla want personally, professionally, and financially? Simple three-legged stool, right? But getting into the granularity of that is where the magic happens, and being really honest with yourself. I think the same principles apply on, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Company, you've got a brand now that's got its legs underneath them to a certain degree. What does an exit look like for you?
Yeah.
You just hit on it. What do you want your involvement to be?
Yep.
You know, is it going to be a strategic? Is it going to be, private? Are you going public? What and why? What are, putting money in your pocket and being successful and having a successful exit, I think people get enamored with that. But what does it really look like for the individual or individuals that are making those decisions, and why? And having those conversations up front with some flexibility to understand things change and things evolve.
Oh, I think that's the key right there. I think, Ben, I kind of look at Ben when we exited the company, and then a couple of days later, he's like, wow, I wish I would have never done that.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was interesting at the same time, because he realized he just gave up his baby.
Right.
And I think that's the most important piece. And a lot of brands and owners within those brands have a difficult time with that.
No, that's an interesting point. So let's get into a couple specific examples.
For me, success, I'm just going to say it like it is. It's Holly and Chris Tran, Mizu, Hard Lemonade. When I met those two young individuals in their 20s, they had hard seltzer. Everybody has a hard seltzer. Sat down with them. They just reached out to me in the middle of nowhere, and I got them on the phone, and they're peddling product out of their trunk. And I'm like, wow, this is not sustainable. I love you too. I think I just kind of gravitated to them. And I think they were onto something, because, as Asian Americans, they had the liquid, but the liquid was in a can. So how do we move that thing along in a way that has a point of differentiation?
Yes.
And how do we capture that, who that consumer is, before we even launch?
And they were open-minded to those ideas.
They were open-minded, and we did a lot of research. This just didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a sell. It was a conversation, and it was an agreement. This is where we're going to go. Okay? We moved into a pouch. We launched in California and Florida. We decided, okay, why California and Florida? Two areas. However, we had a retailer who was interested. Big Blue was interested in this brand. Okay? 3-4 years now we've been with them. One of my first partners. We don't call them clients, they're partners, because they're part of the family. We've been able to dig deep in those two states, build up proof of concept. Density in those states is critical to build a distribution network. Density is really important to drive marketing, the voice of the brand awareness, and trial. And it's all about driving density and proof of concept in those two states. One state being California, which is a very high private investor equity state. People look to invest money into brands. And Florida is similar, more in Miami than traditional Florida. We launched in those two states, just landed Publix. We're very thankful.
Congratulations.
We are doing extremely well, and just met with Walmart on Monday, and we're expanding. I mean, it's like, but what they liked about this brand and these two young people is patience. They had a strategy. They didn't walk away from the strategy, but we pivoted Monday. We did. We were going into the Midwest corridor, and we listened to the Walmart team, and they felt like we need to go a little bit more coastal, and it was a great experience, and that's where we're going.
I love it.
And that's key.
Well, no, good luck with that.
They're great people.
You're still on the path with that
Love
one.
them. Yep.
And based on everything you said earlier in this conversation, it sounds like they really are hitting the mark on a lot of those things.
They're crushing it.
Yeah,
yes,
that's great.
We're now kind of getting into that funding stage.
Share one on the other side of that, where it maybe had the foundational components to be successful, but something happened.
Yeah. So as you know, I launched a brand. Well, it's part of an investor side of the business called Hey Hoopla. So I actually had money in this company.
Yes.
As you well know, and you're part of helping us find great people to manage that business. We were definitely, I was managing from afar. Wasn't in too deep with it from a key account, but I understood kind of what the strategy was because I developed a strategy. We had plenty of PODs. It was a chickpea crisp. It was on trend. We knew where things were going. We knew that other chickpeas. Chickpea itself was hot. So the biggest obstacle, the main obstacle, was sourcing, supply chain. We were sourcing everything overseas. We wanted to bring it into the U.S., and it just never developed over time. And we missed a lot of PODs, which cost us a lot of money in doing so. I think the concept is still there. We're sitting back and taking a step back and going to reevaluate what that looks like, and then probably relaunch that brand in the future. But I wish we'd have done things differently. I think we should have started production in the U.S. first.
Interesting.
Without taking it overseas.
Well, I know that one's really close to home, so thank you for sharing that one.
Yeah.
But with the successes, you've got to take a few on the chin along the way. Well, look, you and I could sit here and chat about this topic all day long, but I really appreciate you coming in. I'm Michael Bitar. This has been Cracking the Code. It's been a pleasure to have Marc Howarth on with us.
Absolutely.
Marc, buddy, thank you so much for being
here. You look good today, too. Yeah.